Okay, so we wanted to have a session here to do a couple of things. First off, to see what you guys got out of the first day. And I think we had some pretty interesting thoughts, but I'm more interested to see what you all thought about it. What did you get out of it? Anyone?
I'll scribe.
There you go. Thoughts?
Status?
Wait.
State of the art, status?
Status? Okay.
What was it?
The current status, the current state of the art.
State of the art of crisis response?
Humanitarian informatics, crisis response.
Cool.
I mean, coming up with a moniker is an interesting part of this process, too.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Humanitarian informatics.
It's a military term, I guess.
Yeah.
What else?
Good one.
I think that there's a clear divide between the digerati and the majority of other people.
Mark Draper.
Gotta move. I can't see him. I mean, there's that we're talking about tools like Twitter and Flickr and real-time communications, and there's people, and then there's the people just have a radio and a TV, and that's the way they get their information. And so I think there's a clear and growing divide, and the question is, I think, whether the TV and radio come up, is that still the best mechanism, or if there's something else?
In terms of how do we actually enact crisis response in a real way, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Great. What else you got?
I have a question. You really think the divide is growing as opposed to getting smaller?
No, right. That isn't clear. So that it is growing. That there is that divide, and I think that question is it growing? Is the minimal technology, is that rising, or is it going to be even worse because all our great technology will all fail? We'll have to go back to that, and no one will that we'll pass that minimum technology, but that's still what will have worked. So I think there's two parts. There's a divide now in non-crisis situations in terms of how to do outreach, and it's not clear what during a crisis what will work and how it will work. So that's kind of what I got at first day.
Well, and it seems like there's some population groups that aren't going to be closing that divide, right? I mean, my mother can't stand even using the computer, for instance. I mean, that's not certainly indicative of everybody in an older age group, but there's a number of them that, the cell phone only has 10 buttons on it, 1 through 10. That's its purpose. It doesn't do texting. It doesn't, What else?
On that concept of the digital divide growing or not growing, I think it's growing because all the guys I went to high school with, not one of them is on Twitter, for instance. Not that that's the end all, but the point is, as I speed up my adoption of technology, it's as if they're kind of staying in the same comfort zone.
So you're just it's not even a generational gap.
No, it's not at all. None of my friends think I'm the biggest dork of the group, but they always call me when their stuff breaks,
So the options for communication have increased, and some of them are on the bleeding edge. Some of us are right there.
It just puts us
still a whole
farther
lot
away from the pack,
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the game of you got to keep looking back to kind of keep pulling people forward with you. I bought my mom a webcam for Mother's Day. It was the greatest thing ever. So you just got to get that group at least one step forward as we go 10 steps forward.
My question is, do you think that the divide is growing, or are we just early adopters?
I can't obviously show any data to support any of my claims, but in a way, I feel it's growing to some extent. But I mean, I don't know, maybe in another 20 years that there will be sort of a cyclical effect that shrinks that gap. But right now, I think we're kind of in the beginning of that cycle. So.
Can we have somebody taking notes who can put this up on me? We'll do some on the board, but if somebody could, who's a relatively quick typist, can do